Okay, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. So my name is Silvana Samos. I'm a holistic therapist. And today I'm very happy to introduce you to Anthea Fenton. How are you, Anthea?
Fantastic. Thank you, Silvana.
So Anthea, she is a leadership mentor. It's very funny because we were just talking about the way that the universe brought us to meet. Yeah, it was something. Yeah, we knew each other, but we had never talked. I had a sign that this interview has to be done, so it had to take place. So Anthea, her main job is nurturing siblings to reach their full potential. I think that she's a very wise woman. She has been working in doing this work for a very, very long time. And this is the reason why I thought that she has to be here. She has to be in this interview. So, Anthea, could you tell us or share a little bit about your story, and then we can talk about your work. But I really would like to know how you started this journey. A little bit.
Yeah, it's like
very long.
How to shorten all that down. Thank you so much for this opportunity to, like you said, there's signs in the universe that people sometimes don't necessarily understand, and many of us don't because we're not taught. We're not taught to understand what it means to be pinged about different signs, but you followed through because it was your intuition. It was something.
Yes, absolutely.
And so really that is, I'm just going to switch this to a different, I'm trying to look at the camera so that you can, it's an icon.
It's okay.
But I think in a way my story is very, very much about empowering people. I wanted to empower myself with regards to communicating, but I found that growing up, nobody really understood me. I was very, very quiet, and I observed a lot all the time. And I had lots of emotions that were never really understood by my parents, by my brothers and sisters. I was a peacemaker. There was 8 of us altogether. 7 of us made it into human bodies. And so I was the peacemaker. I was the second to the end in terms of my family lineage. And I just knew that I was here to do something that was going to impact a lot of people, but I didn't have a voice. I was very, 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 very silent. So I've had to do the complete opposite in terms of just moving on in life and doing things that I never imagined that I would ever do. And so what I wanted to do was to bring all that experience together in order to be able to create a community, create a family that I'd been born into, this family that was quite dysfunctional in many ways, lots of abuse, which was the lessons to learn and to let go. And I knew that there was a reason for being born in that family. I knew that in my family, the blood family was about, I knew that they were an image, or there was an experience of the micro, and that this was about, okay, this is a reflection of the world. So that's what I knew right from day dot, that I was here to do something, and I just had to experience and use that experience to propel me to find tools and to create tools that were going to empower other people who felt the same. So that's been the journey that's been 52 years now.
Wow. That's been very long.
Yeah.
So this empowerment, this is the confusion that I can see in people, and people think that empowerment comes from the outside.
Yes.
They feel that they will find success outside, but it's more like an inner transformation, right? So I'd like you to tell us more about this inner transformation, because your way of explaining it is just lovely.
Yeah, I hope it is. So I realised that that there was so if you can imagine the tree, that's the big. So I was given a vision of a tree in 1996, and I kind of asked, well, what? And it was really because I'd walked into a women's centre to get some information on fibroids. Now, apparently fibroids is very high within African American women, black women in particular. And so I walked into this voluntary organisation. And as I walked in, the volunteer behind the desk, grabbed her bag. She went to grab her bag. She kind of was really nervous. And I remember it was like slow motion. I kind of hovered thinking, right, I was thinking no woman should ever feel how I feel right now of going into a charity, going into a place where it should be a sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in that moment that I knew that I had to change people's mindsets about Black people.
Mm.
And it was like, okay, how do I do that? So I was given this vision of a tree, and the bark played a particular, the roots, the bark, the branches, the leaves. And I thought, that's me. I'm a very, very simple person, but I've had to take a complex way of being and experiencing life, doing, and switch it into being. And so I've kind of like been that bridge. I'm a Libran. So I've kind of been the justice and the balance. And I was kind of like, how can I turn this complex way of compassion back to its simplicity of just love? How do I do that? And so it was about, how do we move from we're born, become like, we've got this seedling, so the nurturing the seedling is in every single one of us. We were conceived and we were inside, and then we came out. And as we came out, like the tree in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
blossoming, we never really go back to the root unless there's a crisis or there's major change. So we're not used to going into our roots, or we maybe do therapy, or which often is because of crisis. We don't do healing unless there's a problem. And so it was about, how do we go inside and do that inner transformation, but not on our own, because a lot of personal development is very much outside of ourselves, and we're individual in our reflections. So I wanted to do something where we could all be together in that process to learn from each other through just reflecting a mirror. That each person that we come into contact with is a reflection of ourselves. And if we can engage with people in depth, then we really do flourish and blossom, because we're creating balance from the outside and on the inside. So that's what this work is, a deep inner conversation, but you're not on your own.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it together. And that's been a challenge in many ways, because our world has been very much about separation. But now we're making this crossroads into togetherness. But it's like, how do we work together? We're used to doing. How do we create that infinity of being? And it is about, how do we do that as leaders? Because we're all leaders. Every single one of us are leaders. How do we respect each other and grow together? And it's very unique what we do. This is Anthea Fenton's process, but it actually includes you. That was what I was told. The tree, I was like, what's it going to be called? It's like including you.
Mm.
So it brings us back to oneness. That's what it does.
This work, I was curious, because yesterday I was talking about this in a video, because people want to know how to detach from everything that is around us, that we feel that we are going to be complete when we get something, when we get an object, when we get a person in our lives. And this is just it's a thought of duality. It's a belief about duality. So this is very interesting, because what you think you said about the mirrors, but for some people it's difficult to understand that. So I need to see the other one as a mirror. How could you explain that? Because
so the way that I see it, and actually it's interesting. So the way that I really delved into the mirror was through online dating.
Oh.
Yeah, so maybe not what you was expecting. So
It's okay.
So what had happened was, I went through divorce in 2000, and I'd married my childhood sweetheart. So I'd never really had experiences of, other than my brothers, of men, in my life. And so my friend had said to me, look, you're going through divorce, just get online and build your confidence and just chat to different people. I didn't realise at the time that it was dating in a way. There weren't dating sites, but there were sites of chatting to people, and then it turned into dating. And so when I wrote this book, the reason why I wanted to write it was because I'd realised that I'd had lots of engagement with these different men. And that's when, as I was writing, I thought, I need to write about these characters. So it's called The Myths of Men. And it's 18 golden nuggets of online dating. So it's 18 characters that I had some kind of connection with. And it was when I was writing that book, I just wrote about these different characters. So they've all got different names. It's quite funny, really. And when I joined this marketing company, I'd asked for 18 women to come and read out these characters that I'd written. So they videoed them, and we had so much fun doing that process. It was brilliant. But what I realised as I was writing it took me 9 days. So I wrote the book complete in 9 days. It's taken me to produce it, but it's because it was just fun. It was amazing. But when I got to the end part, kind of like the conclusion, that was bigger than the rest of the book. It was just like, it was bigger than these 18 characters. But it dawned on me as I was writing, which was very much automatic writing, was that I'm going to give the clue away, really, so people want to engage with the process. But it dawned on me that these 18 men were a reflection of me. That's the mirror. They were a reflection of me. And what I had to do was to transmute, if you will, the experience into what did I learn from this? So that was the mirror. He was these men that were presenting themselves a bit like a crystal, and you've got a crystal and it's different sides of it as you turn it around. It's like there's the whole, we are that crystal, but then our experiences and our interactions with different people are a mirror. That person's just a mirror of us. And so at the end of the process, as I was writing, it kind of just said, the one that you're looking for, we're so used to looking outside of ourselves, the one that we're looking for outside of ourselves is us. So that's the mirror, you know. So each person that comes along, you know, people can sometimes say, well, you hurt me. You know, when you said that, you hurt me, which is often what happens in relationships. And it's kind of like nobody has the power to hurt anybody else. So it's kind of like, actually, no, you didn't hurt me, but you connect within yourself, and that's the dialogue. That's what we're coming to. We need that conversation of, well, hold on a minute. No, you didn't hurt me, but what you said triggered in me reaction. And where does that come from? So everything is about self. Everything. The growth is all about self. So that's the mirror effect.
This is exactly what I always say, because I've been applying this mirror for a long time. In my marriage, and I always say I'm with my husband, we are very different, but he's been my biggest teacher about myself. And I had this question, there's something you said that, no, you didn't hurt me, it was my own perception of what you have just said, that I'm just projecting something from the past and have this perception about that reaction or that comment. And I'm hurting myself because this is the perception that I have about your comments.
Yeah.
And if the other person, or my husband or the partner, is saying something rude, that's his problem. That's his journey. There's something that he needs to see in himself. So if one person is very upset or angry and says something to another person, the other person feels hurt. So there are two different words here: the one that is rude and the one that feels hurt. So this is really powerful. I know there's something that you offer that is a soul growth training and is related to all this. So I'd like if you can share something about that, and then we can move to the storytelling.
Yeah, it kind of like integrates into that. I knew that I think when I gone down the road of care, just caring for people, and it's really interesting because at this moment in time I'm a full-time carer. So it's really, but I say I'm a full-time carer, I think I've always been a carer. That's just been part of who I am. And so I really want to get into that conversation of compassion, because I think we don't have compassion in our world. It's like it is there, but where is it? Let's find it. Let's seek compassion. And so I knew that I wanted to create something that enabled this emotional intelligence, where we're able to communicate our emotions, because our emotions have been removed. So I went on this journey of caring, right from caring for my sister. She came when I was 3 years of age. So from 3 years of age, I was a carer. And I've always been a carer, so it's been over 40 years, you know. And so I then went into volunteering and went into care work in older people, children, adults with learning difficulties, children with learning difficulties. When I was at school, I spent the last 3 years of my summers in the holidays looking after children with disabilities, and just loved working with people. And so I worked my way up the pyramid, I guess, of how we do, you know. And I didn't leave school with many qualifications or official qualifications. In a way, I didn't need them, because the heart was so strong with regards to wanting to just love people. But at the same time, I was taking a lot of hits around not being accepted, really, in the way that I was. Highly sensitive, and obviously people label that empathic now. But I would feel people's pain and didn't understand what was going on, and wanted to see people happy and feel the happiness from the core. So from care assistant to social work, I went to university. Of the year that I got married, I went to uni and did a degree, which obviously I wasn't meant to do a degree because I wasn't clever enough, and just saw so many inequalities, saw that depending on people's abilities, people's skin colour, people's eye colour, people's sexuality, people's beliefs, that actually the world has been set up to have, for people to be on different levels of the playing field. And I knew in the moment when we did this exercise in 1990, I remember thinking, no way. How can it be that somebody who's in a wheelchair and who's black, who's because we were all the same in this card exercise, and we could step forward if we. And now actually, this is an exercise that a lot of people are filming, but back then it was in the 90s, and you could step forward if you were able to get on the bus without any needing help, if you were able to walk down the street without fear of being attacked. And at the end of the exercise, it was like, right, look up and just look where you are. And I couldn't believe the distance between the person at the back and the person at the front. And in my mind, I just said, whatever it is that I do, I want those two people to be on the stage at the same time, is what I kind of said. To be on that level playing field. I want to be part of creating that. So that was 30 years ago, you know. So in my heart, I just knew that had to change. It just had to change. And so that's been the journey. The journey has been allowing the heart to open to opportunity that would appear, and kind of not question it with the ego mind and think, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? It was about being able to really trust that, hold on, you asked for that, just keep on going. And the amount of things that have happened, I mean, it's just been off the scale, just like, oh my God. So I've kept on going despite so many obstacles. But inside, no beliefs from outside. The only belief is that I've got love in my heart, and that's what I want to give to humanity. That's it. That's all that I've followed. That's been my guidance, my compass, my navigation has been in the heart. And we've all got a heart. If we're watching this, we've all got that heart. So I just believe that we're all part of this. And what we've created is that space of, we're creating a space for, if people are similar, or they're wanting to change, they're wanting to make that difference in being as opposed to doing, then I needed to create the steps to make it. I said, you know, I want something that everybody can do, that we can all have fun, that we can create balance and abundance for everybody, and that it's simple, it's easy, and bring it on, you know. So that's what I was given.
Okay. So it's like step by step on how to empower yourself.
And that's not an easy, that was the thing, because I just thought, okay, I can't duplicate my journey. I can't say to people, right, you've got to go and get a qualification, you've got to do this, none of us can do that, because we're all unique. But I thought, what can we bring together that we've all got in common? And as you can see on here, this is what we've all got in common. So what it meant was removing our differences in many ways, removing those things that were set up against us. So the exercise was that the person at the front was a white middle-class man, and the person at the back was a black disabled woman. So it was about saying, okay, our story with regards to differences is not going to get us to whatever set us up in the first place to separate us. is not going to help us to get together. What we have to do is identify, what have we all got in common? Because then when we identify what we've all got in common, we create a level playing field. How do we create solutions to those problems? So up until COVID, time was one of the biggest things that people often would say, I don't have time, Anthea. I don't have time. And kind of like, actually, we've all got the same amount of time. It's how do we utilize that time? So money is the cloud. So we've all, money is a massive issue for people right now. It was always a big issue before. How we earn money is the issue. Health is what we've all got in common, especially, now with COVID, it's about how do we strengthen our conversation as we started was about how do we boost the immune system. I've had this infection and it's cleared, but it's kind of like, okay, health is something that we have to keep on top of all the time. And then the other areas that you can just see there are personal development, which is the undergrowth. And that's the bit that we've never done. Really, not everybody really understands that it's education. This is about continuous personal development, personal growth. How do we interact with each other? How do we adapt to change? And that's where we're at in terms of right now in our world. And then we've got the rainbow you can see there. About hopes and dreams. It's about visions. It's about how do we want to show up in the world? How do we want to serve? And then there's a star down there, which is planning. So we have a very structured way of how we utilize, how we do planning. And this was created by myself. I say myself, channeled, whatever channeled is. It was a gift from the heart, but it was also, it incorporated the children. So when I was going through massive transformation of divorce, going through a really bad work situation, which was the best thing that ever happened, I was trying to work this out. I was like, so we all spend our time earning money that can often affect our health. There's always an imbalance between these. It's like, okay, so we have to go within ourselves to start recognizing these. So I was like, okay. So I just drew the cloud, drew the sun, the undergrowth, put the seedling inside the undergrowth, because the seedling, to nurture the seedling is to bring the water and the rain and the sun to help to grow. And the children, I had it on my flip chart at home, and the children said, Mum, if you've got a cloud and sun, you've got a rainbow. So that's how the rainbow. Wow. But what was interesting was I'd had this vision from 1990. The children arrived 93, 95. So I was just busy being mum and, just enjoying that and wanting to be the best. And so some of this concept was there, but I didn't fully, I had to bring it out. So I had to show it. So when they were telling me, Mum, there's a rainbow, and I thought, oh my gosh, the hope and dream, which was to create nurturing seedlings. And I thought that's what this is about. This is what I'm doing, nurturing seedlings. So it was a case of, okay, so this process started to happen, but it was actually the book process. It was in a book.
Wow, it's wonderful.
It's amazing, and it really is amazing, because I'm just like, oh my gosh. So this book process started where I started to break down the cloud, the sun, the undergrowth, the hopes and dreams. So I put 6 chapters together with these images, and broke it down into 4 sections. So we're still covering the same areas. But what we're doing is we're moving, you mentioned it before about duality. And so it's the external world and the internal world. That we just see the external. So what we do is we talk about these subjects as a group of us. So each of us write our chapters, and we come together and we share our story. So it's a very structured way. The framework is structured. So what we've got in common is the framework, but what we add to it is our uniqueness. But then as we add our uniqueness and we share our stories with these mirrors of reflection, we start seeing each other. We start feeling each other, and we start creating this community of presence. That's all I can describe. And it's it's absolutely incredible. You can't describe it, because it's just, people sit, and as people listen, because the first chunk is very much about the external world and of these issues. How have we learned about money? Who taught us about money? So some really simple questions that everybody's kind of like, oh, do you know what, actually? And it's amazing how the answers that people share. And everybody's saying the same story. So it doesn't matter the skin colour. And when you see everybody on screen, different hairstyles, different eye colours, different genders, you realise, wow, we're creating community. And it's beautiful. It's just a beautiful, and I hadn't visualised how it was going to feel, how it was going to look. I hadn't done that. It was only when I joined the marketing company that I talked about the dating book and gathered these women together, and then introduced the storytelling. Because I thought, actually, there's some women in here that are leaders, that are looking, they're searching for how do they bring themselves to the world. And I've got a solution here. So we started to develop this leadership program. And there's been 2 people that have, since 2018, that have taken this to the next level, which is just fantastic, because I've just been so focused on getting the framework together of how can people engage and how can we help people, take people through the process. And just last week with the tooth, we were going to hold a launch, and I thought normally I would have to cancel, and I was kind of like, hold on a minute, I've got a team of people. It's like, oh my gosh, I can actually not be involved, and I can sit back and just allow them to grow into their leadership. And so that's what's, now we're ready, the process is there. It's still developing with each individual in many ways, but it's there to be able, it's there to grow and to allow leaders to grow and emerge, and to utilize, to integrate this into the work that we're already doing, that everybody's already, so you can run it alongside or instead of. So there's been lots of hurdles that we've had to overcome and to learn and to integrate. It's a very special process that's never been done before. So everybody who's involved right now, I just think the first 10,000 people are the pioneers of this, and it's a global, it's wherever there's people, this is a process that people can take. And I think the biggest thing is that people are able to put food on the table. That's the biggest. It's like, do you know what? This is a way for people to go through the process. And as they go through the process, they are learning to undo a lot of the misconceptions and eventually arrive at that place where they're able to teach somebody to put food on the table. And that's what we need right now. Many people will say to me, well, you know, it's a course. And I say, no, it's not. It's more than a course. It's a way of being. It's detoxing ourselves from isolation, from feeling like you're on your own doing it. You know, when people have got children and having children going through this process, I knew that I was like, well, who's like me? Who wants to have that option of being able to stay at home and homeschool the children? But they think, well, I've got to go out there and earn a living. It's kind of like, okay, let this be fun so that parents can see, oh my gosh, I'm just doing this naturally, because it is a natural process.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I love it, as you can tell. I mean, I just love it. I really love it.
Yeah, you love it, yeah. So there's a lot of, I believe that there's a lot of, there's a word that you said, misconceptions about every single point of that. I mean, there's a misconception about time, about money, about health. We were talking before the interview about money, and I think that there's so many beliefs around money, beliefs that we just inherited from our parents, and there's a lot of beliefs about time, and there are a lot of beliefs about health, and then it's just unlearning those beliefs and create new ones, the ones that we have never heard in our lives. Because this is true. There are so many beliefs around money that are based on luck, are based on sacrifice, and based on hard work. You know, so we need to unlearn those beliefs and create new ones. Create beliefs around money, for example, that about abundance and how much we can get, not only abundance in money, but abundance in any aspect, in love, in anything.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I'm going to start with the process next week, so I'm looking forward to it. So I'd like you to tell me how. So first, people work on these concepts and then they start with the book, or it's just all together?
So what happens is, it's interesting, isn't it? It's great. It's actually, it's just what happens is, so the first thing that we do is we play the game. So when
Ah,
when these books came to me, they came with the book first, and then I was like, this is just taking too long. People are taking too long to wake up. It's like, look, because this is how I speak to my
yes.
self. Look, if you want me to do this work, I'm happy. However, I want to feel joy. I want to feel excited, but I'm not feeling like that. And if that's how I'm meant to live the rest of my life, I said, I'm happy to do that, but it's like I want a bit of joy, you know. So I said, is there not any way to kind of like make a shortcut, but not a bypass? Because I think people can sometimes bypass things. This goes deep. I mean, it goes as deep as you want it to go, really, and it goes as deep as much as what inner development work that you've done. So that's when the game came.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
are.
Work
And,
on the beliefs first and then go to the book and
mm,
write it. Yeah, absolutely.
and,
Um,
and because it shifts, I mean, the game is an hour, because I was like, okay, people are saying that there's an issue for, you know, the time. So it came, empower in an hour. I thought, fantastic. And I literally sat and just drew a circle. In fact, I drew boxes first of all. I thought, I don't like squares. Why would I do? So then I just drew a circle and put the lines in. And I thought, yeah, 30 days transformation. I'd done an Anthony Robbins event. I'd gone to a fire walk twice, because the first time I burnt my feet and I thought, right, I'm going to have to go back again. Burnt my feet again, but that's another story. And so as I was in this room with Anthony Robbins and I saw him, there was like 10,000 people in the room. I just thought, that's one person to many. So I want something that is one person to many, but then many to many. You know,
yeah,
that many people,
exactly.
you know, and that, you know, I thought, yeah, just lots of people coming together and everybody empowering everybody. So that's when more or less the game started to, the idea around the game. So obviously I'd already done the book, but then I needed the game. So I can show you. So basically I had a group of people who were doing the book process, and then we ended up developing the game, which is in a tube, and it's fantastic. I mean,
Oh, it's a real game.
it's a real game, yeah.
Mhm.
This is 2010, but it was, you know, it had to be circular.
Oh,
It had to be a certain material, so that if anybody spilt on it, it was like it didn't matter. It had to move around, so everybody had the same perception. It had
okay.
to be where, so there's 30 questions on there, and then they've got these counters that are just,
Oh,
at the moment, Geraldine's making these jelly.
oh,
So all these issues,
wow.
the same, yeah. It's so that what happens is people throw the dice.
This is so powerful for children.
It's the inner child. It's the nurture, the seedling.
Telling the child.
Yeah, and the children look. The children get this game. The adults take a while to sometimes to shift past the ego.
Okay.
But what we do
Children.
is we throw the dice, and what happens is whatever, and you'll get to experience it next week. But what happens is that there's nothing random. There's nothing random. So I throw the dice on behalf of people, but it relates to whatever. It's kind of like it's connecting to your higher self. You know, it's connecting to that natural, the pure part of who you are. That initial, you know, when you respond, it's that initial thought. And what we're doing in many ways, it's what I've realised, is we're building intuition. We're building intuition. We're strengthening people's inner core of who they are, so that when they get that message, it's like, right, yeah. And it's a direct reflection of, that's what I grew up with. I grew up with intuition, but it wasn't labelled. So many times through childhood, there were so many dangerous opportunities or dangerous events, to one where a young lady got murdered, and myself and my sister would have been part of that investigation. But something so strong was like, get home, but keep an eye on what's gone on. And we found out after that she'd been murdered, this young girl, and that was a memory from childhood. And it's kind of like, that's not, but it was only because of the intuition. It was only because of that gut feeling and listening to it. Because I would have been very soft and kind of like, oh well, you know, my sister was very strong. And so this game is very much about, how do we strengthen that innate part of ourselves that has been dumbed down. So we play the game. as an initial coaching session in many ways. And we have an action plan. So this is
yes, I got that. Yeah.
and then the purpose of this, which is, I mean, it's a card. I mean, it's different now because we're in lockdown and we can't pause the same. But the reason why it's a card is because it's about value. And as we've said, you know, around money, this is about what do we value. And we don't know what we value until we go through these areas and start thinking, oh, actually, yeah, who did teach me about how important my health was? And so after we've done that first part in the book, we kind of like ask those questions again, and then we turn over to the inner dialogue of, okay, what are we going to do about it? So as you go through the process, the problems are kind of like identified, how, you know, the problems, the solutions or no solutions. And then it's about, okay, now that you've got all this information, you've detoxed your spirit around this stuff, what are you going to do differently? So it's a real gentle process, so that by the end of it, you've got the balance, you've got a plan, you've got, you know, that vision that you've always had. Everybody's got a vision. It's about how do we unlock it. And so the process helps to get you through that. So right at the start, you're creating that vision. By the end of the book process, it's like, okay, how do we make it happen? And it's not even the end of the book process.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm very enthusiastic now. It was something I was thinking to ask you. To say is that I always share with people that I believe that every single person feels their intuition. Yes. You just don't trust on it.
Yeah.
It's this inner voice telling you, don't do it, don't go, don't do it, don't go, or do it, go, do it, go. You know, and this is the inner voice. And when I say this in the workshops and the talks, and when I say this, I look at people at their faces and say, you know that you have that inner voice, and you know that talks to you all the time. And they all smile. They smile and say, yeah, it's true. Yeah, I don't pay attention to it. Yes, but just people need to put energy in the intuition, because some people ask me, how do you develop your intuition? Just put in energy. How do you develop anything? How do you develop, I don't know, how do you make your business grow? How do you raise your knowledge? Putting energy on it. Yeah. When you put energy on something, you make it grow. With intuition, it's the same. If you put attention on it, it will be louder, 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 and louder. So this is so true, yeah, about the intuition. So I'd like you to share how people can access to this project, this process, which is wonderful. I'm going to leave the links anyway and your information. But then,
so the way that it works, Silvana, is that each person, it's really interesting actually, because when we first started talking and we were trying to, we identified, how we got to know each other, and it was through Cassia, and it was like, oh my gosh, of course it was. I thought it was Jeremy Lee. What happens is that the way that we find people is really relevant to the question of where do people find you,
okay.
Because in a way, the way that the process works is that that process is a leadership process. So when Cassie said, actually, I would love to introduce you to this process, that's leadership. But we just take it for granted. We just think, oh yeah, contact that person. And then obviously I came round another way, through Lovers One, and it's kind of like...
Yeah, but at that moment I was not ready. I liked it, but it didn't impact on me at this time because I was not ready.
There's all codes. Yeah, there's all codes. It's all about coding.
Yes, exactly.
But the thing that what I'm raising here is that secret process is what we are highlighting as part of our leadership. So the authentic leadership, the way that it works, is that people come along to this process, but it's so subtle, and that's the bit. It's like, this is the dialogue that is a new dialogue, but it's so subtle because Cassia is a leader. What she did was she planted a seed, and that's what we do. And so it's like, how do we nurture that seed? And obviously you continued nurturing and you've grown, and then it's come back round again, you know, and that's all that it is. So it's not about, yeah, timing is really important, but it is that leadership. So that's how we work this process. So as people come to me, I always ask them, how did you hear about me? Because that's your leadership. Yeah. So anybody who clicks on the link that you're going to put into the message, we're going to have it on the website. I've got it on one of the other ones. Is how did you hear? Because the aim is to start building this network of people, because they're your people. You've invited me to be interviewed. I don't. What's the word? It's a different kind of process of training and coaching and mentoring. So it is about, okay, this is about how am I supporting your leadership, even though it's not being, I'm a leader. And this is a really important thing, because leaders are not they're not self-appointed. Leaders grow because of the impact and the influence on other people. So when people say to me, Anthea, I'm following you, I'm like, no, you're not. I've actually just got to grips with that word follow, because it's like, nobody's following me. Not a follow. We're not doing that. However, I thought, you know what, actually, I ask people to hold my hand. So in a way that I am guiding people, and people are following, but they're following back to themselves. We've got this infinity, you know? And so each person who comes through this process needs to help just to guide people, and then allow somebody to flourish and blossom. So it's a real gentle way. So I just wanted to utilize this time to be able to share that, because I've been desperate for that conversation for so many years, you know, of kind of like, how do people get to understand they're not following? I'm just going to help guide, and I'm going to teach you. As you're going through the process, you're going to see the guidance that it is, because it's all about, I'm going to guide you. Many people say, oh, I'm not ready to tell my story, or I'm not a leader. And it's like, we are, because I go down to that when you've got luckily my children were just 23 months apart from each other. So I got to see my son, who was walking around, toddling around, and his sister, who was led down, kind of like, or just starting to crawl, and witness their journey of him dragging her up to help her to walk. You know, that's what this is. It's that inner child that's like, look, I'm walking, and I might just be not steady on my feet, but I'm trying to help you to get up. You know, we don't know everything, but it's okay. That's what this process is. It's going back to that inner child and that journey of innocence, but we're in an adult. So when it comes to nurturing the crystal children that are coming through, those children that have got this knowledge already that we're just having to nurture, then these tools are about preparing us to be able to do that. So we are preparing the children to be able to live in a place of being as opposed to doing. We are that bridge to build that transition. So as you go through the process, there's no going around it. There's no your qualification is the book process itself. So the link that I share with people is the same link that you was given, which was to create your own toolkit. Because that's what we're doing. Your own toolkit is, I can't tell you your story. There's only you that can do that. So that's how we start the process. So we start with the playing of the game, and
then
and the process.
Okay, that's beautiful. Really. I wrote something this morning. Every time that I welcome members to my group, I just inspire myself and write something to give this welcome. And this morning came to me saying that this is so true, because this wisdom that we share is just a reminder of the wisdom that every single person has. So this guidance that you mean is just, I remind you that you know this, and I guide you, and I remind you. So try to remember. You're here to remember. I help you to remember that this is your way. This is your path.
Absolutely.
And this is the guidance that we do. Yeah.
It's interesting, actually, Silvana, because you've just reminded me that I've just been having a co-creation conversation. And I mean, co-creation is just, this process is a co-creation process that doesn't work with just Anthea Fenton. It only works through co-creating. And so that's why it's taken me years. It's felt like years. It's not come from 3D. It's come from, even though the labels, we're not getting hooked up on those, it's come down. So it's about integrating a very high conscious process. And so not everybody is ready for the higher conscious process, but yet we are, if we have enough triggers, if we do the work. And so one of the things, I'm just going off the top of my head, was that after having this co-creation conversation with a chap called Bob, that we're doing some work together, it dawned on me that Prime Source Creator, that some people call God, one day was wondering, I wonder if you can go from everything, having everything and being full of abundance, if you can go from that place to nothing, to experience life, to come down into vessels, which is our bodies, come from a place of everything to nothing, to then find everything, and to experience life, so that when we come down and experience, we experience through our experience brings us to remember. So we experience something and either we don't like it, so we project our dislike that then turns it around. And for my own journey, I experienced a lot of, I didn't like it. I didn't know what I wanted, but in my higher self did know. My place of remembering knew. So it planted those seeds and it just kept on throwing those seeds. So luckily, it doesn't matter the adversity that you've experienced. It doesn't matter how bad it might seem. Every single experience is to bring us to now, is to bring us to this moment of, oh my gosh, actually, I remember. And we remember by our members of our family, our soul family, that are all on that same journey, that help us all to remember. And as we remember through our members' experiences, we're developing this space of oneness. So we're moving from that separation to togetherness. And togetherness for me is to get her, which is that divine feminine within each of us. That's what our world has been starved of. So we've had this masculine dominant energy, as you know, and we're moving into together. So we're bringing out the femininity in all of us. And that's what this process has been able to allow me to really step into that place of inner standing, so that then these conversations, oh my gosh, I've waited for so long, it's like, am I really having this conversation? And it's like, absolutely, but it's not a place of, I never visualized, it was a feeling of fulfillment. So, this is the time that we're in, is getting back to the place of remembrance through each other. We've done the separate things, we've done, the labels that we carry are not the labels that are going to take us to the future. Yes, we can bring some of those tools that we've gathered along the way, but they're not necessarily going to serve this new way of being. So there's a lot of conscious people that are out there, spiritual people that are out there, light workers, way showers, that haven't found the way to be able to work collectively and don't have the time, because it's not about the time. It's like, look, this process was being created before you even realize you needed it.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that I didn't, all I know is that I needed to just do this process, and it was going to be, how do I impact 1 billion families? How do we impact? So moving from the I to we and leading the way in that. So it's making myself redundant. That's what my job is to make myself redundant, so that we all have that seed, that we grow in each other and we blossom and we address all those issues. We have to create balance in time, money, health. And the monetary plan that you'd mentioned before is, it's just not a scale. It's an exchange. So it means that the student becomes the teacher and the student becomes the teacher's fees. And that's how it works.
That's so beautiful, Anthea. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. It's been a pleasure, and I'm looking forward for many talks like
Bless you. Bless you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation a lot.
Bless you. Me too. Thank you so much.
And I'm looking forward to talk to you next week.
Definitely.
To start with the game. Yeah. So thank you, everyone. Thanks very much, and hope you also enjoyed this. Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.